lecture as well. Okay. Now,
Thank
last
you.
we did discuss all that. Yeah, program libraries, we stopped over here, but I'll discuss this again. So obviously you do have an idea that what program libraries are. Um, Basically, your program libraries consist of your built-in codes, subroutines that can be used again and again. So already there's a lot of advantage to it if you have part of the code that is already written somewhere and the programmer can reuse it. The advantages obviously start from that. Obviously, if you keep on writing the codes again and again, you will come up with errors. So developed programs will obviously contain errors. So if you have a subroutine which has been tried and tested and has no error, this can be used again and again. So obviously there's a lot of advantage to it by using program libraries. Okay. You at the same time, there are disadvantages of your linked libraries, which is that your own program, if you keep on adding libraries to it, subroutines to it, it will make your code much more heavy and will take more storage space. So obviously the execution will become slower. The alternate to use the routine is using your dynamic link libraries, the DLL. What DLL do is that your executable code will just have a small piece of code within it, and the rest of it will be used from the code from the DLL file. And every time it can take the files from the DLL file. So obviously these executable files will need very less storage space and will be able to perform even faster. And obviously when you have a DLL file and you have some program code written in DLL file, again, the point is that they will have less errors. You can find DLL, as you can see my screen. Let me show you. You should know it. Even in your computer, if you go to C drive and you will find System32 in Windows. Okay. If you come in System32, when you will be developing applications, you will deal with DLL file a lot. If one of the DLL file is not updated, your system is not going to work properly, or the DLL file is missing, while you load the software, you'll see these are all the DLL file. Application frame DLL, these are all the DLL files that are used either for the operating system, or these are third-party DLL files that are used by all the applications that I have installed on my software. So these are all my DLL files. So let's say randomly if I delete one of the DLL file, maybe it might be used right now for Dreamweaver, for Photoshop, or maybe for any other application, even for Zoom. If there's a DLL file which is being used. So if the DLL files were not present over here, and if they were installed within, let's say, Zoom right now, so the software will work much more slowly. Okay, so this is the way you can make the execution of your software is much more faster. So that's the reason why we use DLL files. We have studied about compilers and interpreters before, and I'm pretty sure you have an idea what compilers and interpreters are. It's just a recap of compilers and interpreters. What do they actually do? So you already know it. You have an idea what compilers and interpreters are, all of you? Yes or no? One second. Let's memorize here. Oh. Yes, you do, right, Manu? You have an idea, right? Interpreters basically are what they basically yes, any idea? What do they both do? They convert your high level language code into machine code, your source code into object code. Okay, yes or no? Okay, interpreter basically will run slowly because what they do is they read line by line. Obviously, they will run slowly, but since interpreters do that, since they run line by no, Marun was not here. Sorry, I just talked. So since interpreters run and you read the instruction line by line, one after line by line, they will tend to get slower. But at the same time, the advantage of interpreter is that they will be able to fetch the error line by line. So as far as compiler is there, compiler basically will take extra preparation time. It will obviously. The reason why it will do that is um, because it will read the entire code and then it will give it for execution. The problem with this will be that if there isn't some error, you have to deal it at the end. So error handling is much more complicated in case of compilers. Okay. But in case of interpreter, after every line, every module, you will be able to take out the error. So as far as interpreters are concerned, more we can also talk about. Interpreters will let you see the results right away, but as far as compiler is concerned, you can see the results only after the entire thing has been executed. Okay, so the process of how interpreter works is listed down over here. Okay, and the process how does the compiler basically works is listed down over here. Okay, you can go through it and you can get back to me as well. It's just quite general. Right. So the advantage disadvantage, an interpreter has an advantage when the program is being developed because errors can be identified, like I just told you right away. I told you an interpreter has a disadvantage that during execution production, the parts of code which contain syntax error may not be set. So if errors are still present, they are not allowed until later. Okay, so errors can be handled right away. Interpreter has a disadvantage when a program is, sorry, people are in the waiting room. जी उसमें आवाज मिली बेटा
Sorry, sir. वो मैं कहीं
Acha. Okay. A compiler has an advantage that an executable file can be distributed to users. So the users have no access to the source code. So advantage, disadvantage is fine. We've done this before. Let me see, there's a point. So which languages use interpreter? It's not mentioned, but I can tell you that your C language, your C++ language, they basically use compilers. Your Python will be using interpreter. Even in fact, even your Dreamweaver is using interpreter. How can you support the fact that I'm saying that the JavaScripting, in fact, JavaScripting within Dreamweaver is using interpreter? Can you support my point, anyone? How could you say that what I'm saying is right?
Sir,
Yeah.
जब आप कोड लिख रहे हो जब
Mhm.
आप कोड लिख रहे होते हो आप कोई भी गलत चीज लिखो आपको फौरन बताता है doesn't wait कि आप अपना पूरा कोड कंप्लीट
Very
करो
good. Exactly. Bilkul. So yes, she's
think
absolutely right. Aisha is absolutely right. Okay, this is what happens. Even Python में भी यही होता है. Okay, line by line, it tells me, and in fact, it's good. It's good for the programmer. Okay, to do it. But once you're working with C language or C++ when you work with it, this is not the way it happens. Yes, someone wanted to say something? No. Okay. Features typical found in the IDE. But maybe we have discussed this before, but again, it's mentioned there again in your book. So pre-typing basically, pre-typing means that just like even in Dreamweaver and even in Python, your functions, your print statement, will be colored differently. Your comments will be colored differently. You can, in fact, recolor them. You can go to the preference properties and you can recolor the way subroutines should be displayed. Your comment should be displayed. Your string should be displayed. Your functions should be displayed. Your loops should be in what color. So it's always an advantage that if you have the feature of pre-typing in your IDE, which helps you to see that are you doing something wrong or right. Okay, you will have an idea because once you get used to the different colors that are used by the built-in function, the comments, the strings, whatever identifiers you're talking about, it obviously helps us. Everything, if it was of the same color, we will not be able to do our error handling and identify objects at a glance in a much more faster way. It would have not been possible. Context sensitive prompts. And this is something very interesting, which is present, and you might have experienced this even in Dreamweaver. That, for example, whenever you type like document dot write, you get this drop down appear for itself, and you can choose from the keyword, and you also get an explanation of what that particular thing is. So you have is sensitive prompts that are built in, and that's one of the feature that is built in. Okay, you have dynamic syntax checks again, like you just saw even in Dreamweaver. The feature was there while you were coding with Java. So you had dynamics. Whenever you have a particular sort of syntax check error, it will tell you what the problem is. Okay, so debugging, it will help you in the debugging, tell you where the problem is, the line number is. Okay, so this is all it was for this particular chapter. I will start with chapter 9 today as well. Okay, we'll try to do it as much as we can. It's about security, privacy, and data integrity. Okay. Why is everyone joining late today? Nice weather, that's why. Hamna beta, why did you join so late? Hamna? Okay. So you can.
सर नेट का प्रॉब्लम हुआ था.
I know. ये नेट का होता है मेरा भी प्लस. Good, it's working right now. Just like in half an hour before, my net was wrong. It was working properly. शुक्र भी काम कर रहा है. Okay, so we'll talk about interesting chapter. It's all about security, privacy, and data integrity. It's one of the chapter, frankly speaking, it's quite generic, and most of it you already know. So let's just discuss about it. Whenever we refer to data integrity, what do we mean by data integrity? Data integrity means that the data is supposed to be in the form it was supposed to be saved in as. What do I mean by that? इसका मतलब ये है कि I was supposed to save my name as SAEM, but mistakenly it was saved as 5AEM. So the character was not written properly. So my data integrity was not done properly. The reason why we use computerized databases or computer systems, whether we are using a flat file or whether we're using a relational database, whatever we might be using, one of the basic advantages that we want to maintain data integrity. Humans commit mistakes, and if our computer systems keep on repeating the same mistakes, then what's the point? So one of the biggest disadvantage is that we have to get rid of such kind of discrepancies while data entry is happening, and this will be done through whatever did we discuss today. Okay, so data integrity basically means we have to make sure the data is in the form that it should be in. It needs to be accurate, and data privacy will be there to discuss that data does not go towards only authorized users and not unauthorized users. So privacy of data, as you do know, that once you have your computer or your device, and if it's connected to an external network, right now you are connected to an external network, which is a WAN, wide area network. You are in public and your data is being sent online, but obviously it's being encrypted. There are different authentication techniques being used. There are different security protocols involved during the transmission, such as HTTPS. You're using secure shell as well. So obviously all because of that, to a lot of extent, our data has been made secure, but still there are multiple ways through which hackers or your data can go into wrong hand. Okay, and obviously this is where we start our discussion with another subtopic, which is about Data Protection Act, which basically came into existence in 1998. In 1998, your Data Protection Act came for the first time. Okay. So what was in the Data Protection Act? The summary of the Data Protection Act said that your privacy of data has to be there for the person who owns the data. For example, you are the author of data and you put something online. If I put something online on mrsign.com and I worked really hard for it, not everyone can copy it, redistribute it, and change the name. Can't do that. So the rule basically said that if you have to redistribute data, you have to take the prior permission from the owner. Not only that, if you have to amend the data, okay, if you have to delete some information from the data, if you have to redistribute the information, in all those particular cases, you have to make sure prior permission from the owner has been taken. Not only that, if you have taken data from someone and you want to use it for 6 months, you have to make sure it should not be used more than the prescribed time given to you. So if you have been given 6 months to use it, you can only use it for 6 months. And again, another thing, it's very important that if you take data from someone or from an organization, it has to be updated if it requires the data to be updated. For example, if I say I'm developing a medical expert system, and the medical expert system takes data from very experienced neurosurgeons around the world, and these neurosurgeons says what the information that I'm giving you will be valid for the next 6 months. If you want an updates, you have to contact me, and then this information you can use it after 6 months. For 6 months, yes, this is what we have. Now, what the expert system the company is developing, what they do is they don't do that. So they're violating the Data Protection Act. The data, in many cases, needs to be updated. So you need to update the information. It's very, very important. So if you have taken information from a university telling that they have currently this much number of students, you cannot use the same number for a longer period of time. It needs to be updated. There could be various examples where the information needs to be updated. Again, the point is, how do we prevent piracy of data? It's because of the Data Protection Act. So individual organizations, their data can only be protected through this particular act. Now it came into existence. Okay, many countries obviously have it. In Pakistan, I think we do have this law. Okay, we do have this law, but I don't know how till what extent is it being used. I don't want to discuss that anyway. So data security obviously means that you have to make system.
Sir?
Yes, beta.
सर ये वेबसाइट्स के केस में कि चेंजेस वगैरह कुछ भी करना हो तो यू
हाँ,
हैव टू फर्स्ट टेल लाइक सोर्स मतलब ये किस
जी जी, आप बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हो. वेबसाइट कंटेंट, मोस्ट ऑफ इट तो वेबसाइट कंटेंट है, ठीक है ना. उसके अलावा इवन आप सॉफ्टवेयर में बात कर सकते हो. देखो बात सुनो, there are lots of softwares that work online as well. Okay, और उसको भी छोड़ो. Okay, मैं कोई सॉफ्टवेयर लॉन्च करता हूं और मैं बिल्कुल जूम वाली कॉपी करता हूं. I develop an interface just like features like, well, features of obviously no one can criticize on them, but I can't do that. I have to, unless and until I take copyrights. So if you take the content from somewhere, then obviously you have to take permission from someone if they allow it or not. But a website example, yes, majority is because the content on the website is freely available, and frankly, there is no way you can protect your information from being copied from the website. Although there are ways. और जावास्क्रिप्टिंग के थ्रू ही हम कर सकते हैं. बल्कि मैं करके दिखाऊंगा अगली क्लास में मंडे को. Can you remind me? I'll type a very small snippet for you in JavaScripting जो आप HTML पेज में लगाओगे. उससे पता है क्या होगा कि कोई भी पेज हमारे पास होगा ना, any page that we will have, for example, either right click करूंगा तो you will not be able to see the view page. You will not be able to see this. आपको नजर नहीं आएगा. आपको मंडे को करके दिखाऊंगा, मुझे याद करा देना, ठीक है. It's very interesting. So there are ways that programs came with different
so यानी
जी बेटा.
यानी अगर वेबसाइट पे कुछ ऐड करना हो या कुछ एक्सट्रैक्ट करना हो, कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन आपने ऐड करनी हो, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर आपके I don't know, you sell something and you want to add a product to that website, so you have to ask the source first.
Absolutely.
Or like at least tell them that you're adding.
जी बात सुनो. If someone, let's say, if someone comes to my website, comes over here and does what is that they simply go to my view source, and what they do is they get hold of my most important part of it. Technically they should ask me, because it takes time to write all this and to test it and all that. Okay, in order to make these drop down menus, these have been made in Java. Actually, I've made them in Java, so it has taken me a lot of time. Okay, so if someone just comes and copies my JS file, it's not fair. Once you take permission of it. Okay, but you know what, this you can't stop it. You know why I can't stop it?
Right.
Because what people do is they change a part of the coding, so everything is available online. You just can't find it. But once the law is there, at least people know that we are not going to do it, and most of them will stop doing it right away. You get the point?
Okay. Right.
Even
Right.
even in our physical world, हमारे पास laws क्यों बने हुए हैं? Okay, so that we can stop people from doing it. Although we do know कोई चीज बाहर पड़ी हुई है, आप चोरी नहीं करनी, although they can do it, मगर law बना नहीं करना तो नहीं करना ना. This is the same way things happen over here. You cannot steal things even if they're in front of you. You're not supposed to do it. Okay. Yeah, you might be saying, look who's talking, using all the pirate softwares. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's being recorded as well. Yeah, I can't do anything about that. And one should not have justification for that. But क्लास में आपसे बात की थी कि मसला ये सब ये है कि हमारे गवर्नमेंट के थ्रू there should have been agreements with Microsoft, with major companies कि एजुकेशन के लिए तो हमें अब 80% डिस्काउंट देना. हमारे एडोबी के, हमारे माइक्रोसॉफ्ट के, हमारे विंडोज के लाइसेंस को आप 80% डिस्काउंट दें. इंडिया में ये हो रहा है. इंडिया में एजुकेशनल सॉफ्टवेयर गेट 80% रीबेट. वी आर नॉट डूइंग दैट. क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? I mean, I don't want to get into this debate. हमारा टॉपिक नहीं है, मगर एज एन CS स्टूडेंट आपको इस बात को पता होना चाहिए कि ये हो रहा है. And this is why the universities, major universities and all school colleges, they are using the original softwares right now. Anyway, you are the next generation, so inshallah आप लोग जब आगे आओगे तो you should be aware of all this and you should be dealing with these things. So basically, threats to security of computer system. The threats of security of system include the following: individual user not taking appropriate care. Obviously, that's one of the reasons why the threats do generate. Okay, you log into someone else's computer, and in the public, you enter your username and the password, and you simply log out, thinking of the fact, being so naive कि कुछ नहीं होता, log out तो मैं करके आया हूँ ना, तो नहीं. You just forgot the point that all your details are being stored in cookies, and you know what cookies actually are. You do know that, right? Have you seen cookies in your computer? In the control panel, did I show you?
I don't know what they are, but I've
Over here, if you come here, yeah, exactly.
I don't know
You
what
come into
exactly they
network
are.
options, internet options, and internet options may, if you simply come over here in your browsing history and from a file, sorry. You will join again. Hold on. Did I change the settings? I did not, obviously. So if you come into the files, let's come to the settings. You can actually view the files, and within these files, do you see I have cookies? I will obviously not open this right now because it's going online. If I open this file, this is a text file, and this text file basically holds information. This information can be used. इंशाल्लाह जब स्कूल ओपन होगा तब हम दोबारा मैं आपसे बात करूंगा, अभी ऑनलाइन नहीं. ठीक है? So yes बेटा.
कुकी होता क्या है?
होता है इसमें है कि आप देखो, बड़ा सिंपल सा रूल है. आप एक सिस्टम यूज कर रहे हो जिसमें वल्नरेबिलिटी बहुत ज्यादा है. You're using softwares and what you're entering right now is a graphical user interface. Backend पे प्रोग्रामिंग हो रही है. आप तो ये समझ रहे हो ना कि जो भी मैं एंटर कर रही हूँ, I'm just entering it and no one knows it. What if using the key logging software? वैसे बात करो apart from this. Key logging software so someone knows what you're typing in and it gets saved somewhere else. चलो वो तो एक अलग बात है. Key logging तो illegal बात होगी. इसके अलावा obviously when I'm entering information into a computer system, वो कहीं ना कहीं तो save हो रहा है. कहाँ save हो रहा है? भाई हाँ कुकीज में सेव होता है. Why is it that when you fill up a new form और आप एड्रेस लिखते हो एड्रेस खुद ही ऑटोमेटिकली आ जाता है, और यू माइट हैव नोटिस्ड क्यों, बिकॉज सेव द कुकी. यू माइट हैव नोटिस ना, जब फॉर्म आप बार बार फिल करते हो ई कॉमर्स के लिए वगैरह के लिए, कभी किया होगा, the fields get filled up themselves on their own. You get sometimes you have already entered the information into your system, so the information gets saved in the cookies. Now cookies में एक बार information सेव हो गई है, तो it does not mean that your passwords do not get saved. Yes, there are websites that say that your passwords are not being saved as part of our cookies. They tend to be wrong. Okay, and I can prove.
सर कुछ
Yes.
वेबसाइट्स होती हैं जो कि परमिशन लेती हैं कुकीज
जी.
की समथिंग के हम
जी वो लेती
कुकीज
है,
शो कर
वो
सकते हैं.
इसलिए तो वो लेते हैं आपसे इंफॉर्मेशन इसके लिए, क्योंकि वो लीगली अपने आप को बाउंड कर रहे हैं. कैम्ब्रिज यूनिवर्सिटी इज वन ऑफ देम जो बहुत अच्छा करते हैं, क्योंकि द रूल सेज दैट पर्सनल इंफॉर्मेशन ऑफ द यूजर शुड नॉट बी टेकन विदाउट देयर प्रायर परमिशन. तो वो टेक्निकली अपने आप को बस स्ट्रॉन्ग कर रहे हैं. वो ये करते हैं कि वो आपसे ले लेते हैं परमिशन कि देखे ना, वट एवर यू टाइप इन cookies are enabled. Well, it's up to you कि आपको do you know what cookies are. उनकी ड्यूटी नहीं आपको एक्सप्लेन करें what cookies are, but some of the websites even explain what cookies are. तो वो लीगली अपने आप को स्ट्रॉन्ग करते हैं.
सर हमें फिर नहीं एक्सेप्ट करना चाहिए,
नहीं
परमिशन नहीं देनी चाहिए.
मैं तो एक्सेप्ट नहीं करता, frankly speaking I don't. मगर एक बात है, एक और बात है, अगेन बात वही हो जाएगी कि आप एक्सेप्ट करो या ना करो, कुकीज आपके सेव हो रहे होते हैं. बात ही होती है कि जिस तरह मैं भी गया था कंट्रोल पैनल में, मैं अपनी कुकीज को डिलीट करके आऊंगा किसी भी कंप्यूटर पे इफ इट्स नॉट माय पीसी. क्योंकि अगर आप कुकीज डिलीट कर देते हो ना, देन देयर इज नो वे समवन कैन गेट, अनलेस एंड अनटिल की लॉगिन सॉफ्टवेयर इंस्टॉल नहीं होगा. उसके अलावा कुकीज के अलावा आपकी इन्फॉर्मेशन कहीं नहीं जा सकती.
सर प्लीज कुकीज डिलीट करना फिर से दिखा देंगे.
जी आप सिंपल आओगे कंट्रोल पैनल पे, किसी भी कंप्यूटर के कंट्रोल पैनल पे आना, एंड यू गो इनटू द नेटवर्क एंड इंटरनेट ऑप्शंस पे जाना. जब इंटरनेट ऑप्शंस पे आ जाओगे, जनरल में आना, जनरल में आके ब्राउजिंग हिस्ट्री में आना, ब्राउजिंग हिस्ट्री व्हाट हैव यू बीन ब्राउजिंग, सेटिंग्स में आना, और इधर आके आप कर देना व्यू फाइल्स. जब व्यू फाइल्स में आओगे यू विल सी देयर कुकीज ओवर हियर. तो मैं तो जनरली तो ये करता हूं कि मैं सब डिलीट करके आता हूं. मुझे मतलब ऑब्वियसली आई हैव टू मेक इट सेफ. किसी को क्या करना है, आई डिलीट एवरीथिंग, मेरा कुकी सारे डिलीट हो गए. गेट द पॉइंट. नाउ आई
हमें तो कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा ना आगे परफॉर्मेंस वगैरह किसी चीज
ना नथिंग. आपको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. ये टेम्परेरी इंफॉर्मेशन स्टोर हो रही होती है, मगर टेम्परेरी ये नहीं कि टेम्परेरी मतलब permanently होती है. मगर what I mean to say is कि when you're online and entering things, all this is being saved over there. So all ये अच्छा, why were there multiple cookies? क्योंकि जिस वेबसाइट में फॉर्म होगा where the user will be entering information, once you enter information, once you key log, okay, तो तब ही कुकी क्रिएट होता है at the back end. A cookie actually, the reason cookie was created was for our benefit. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि cookie don't take it wrong, cookies are
सर इसलिए था ना कि हमारी प्रेफरेंसेस को सेव करने, ताकि हम एक वेबसाइट को बार बार लोड करने
absolutely
में
correct.
इतनी देर ना लगे, और
Absolutely.
हमें एक दफा में वो लोड हुई भी हो और अगली दफा जब हम एक ही वेबसाइट यूज करें तो हमें फायदा पहुंचे, कि बहुत टाइम ना लगे.
बिल्कुल सही. दिस इज द रीजन व्हाई कुकीज आर देयर. मगर इवेंचुअली फिर ये हो गया, इस चीज का गलत फायदा उठाया गया कि सिंस हैकर्स को दे न्यू इट कि ओके फाइन दे आर एंटरिंग देयर इंफॉर्मेशन समवेयर, हम कहां से ले सकते हैं. सो हैकर्स आर एक्चुअली स्निफिंग अराउंड. फ्रैंकली दिस इज व्हाट दे डू. दे ट्राई टू फाइंड इंफॉर्मेशन कहां सेव हो रही होती है, और इसी इंफॉर्मेशन को दे यूज इट, दे मिसयूज इट, एंड योर कंप्यूटर सिस्टम बिकम्स अ थ्रेट टू इट. और हम हमेशा समझते हैं कि नहीं ऐसा नहीं हो रहा होता है at the back end. Okay.
Sir, this is going off a little off topic, but जब फोन में होता है, अगर फोन में जो भी इंस्टाग्राम वगैरह होता है उस पर आप लॉग इन करो तो वो आपको ऑटो फिल के ऑप्शन देता है. तो वो इसमें तो नहीं होता, वो तो फोन में होता है. एज इन वो कहाँ होती है इंफॉर्मेशन सेव?
आपके फोन में उसके इंटरनल मैं आपको कनेक्ट करके दिखाऊंगा. आप अगर अपना अटैच करोगे ना कंप्यूटर के साथ फोन, उसमें एक फोल्डर होता है, उसमें सेव हो रहा होता है सारा कुछ. मैं I don't have the cable right now, but मैं शाम को ना स्क्रीनशॉट भेजूंगा केबल अटैच करके. I will do it and I will show you the folder जिसमें सेव हो रहा होता है. फोन में भी ऐसा ही है, the same thing. It's all saved over there. बिल्कुल cookies में सेव होते हैं. And you can actually delete from the phone as well. You can do it. बल्कि आपको ऐसा करना चाहिए, कभी भी if you somehow you lost your phone, the first thing you should do is you should change the password of your main important like email and all that. क्योंकि chances तो बहुत कम है कि your phone goes into someone's hand and the person is a hacker. Well, 1 out of 10,000 या 1 out of million में chances हैं कि ऐसा हो. अब अगर ऐसा होता है तो obviously information वो retrieve कर सकते हैं बंदे. Usually the person is not concerned about your details. The person will be concerned about selling the phone. But what if this is not the case? So if you get hold of someone, so if someone steals your phone for the purpose of not to monetary benefit themselves with the phone, but to get your information out, फिर तो आपका सारी information चली गई. And if you did not change your different credentials over there. देखो जिस तरह आपका क्रेडिट कार्ड जब घूमता है सबसे पहले क्या करते हैं, बैंक को बताते हो कि मेरा क्रेडिट कार्ड ब्लॉक कर दें. इसी तरह अगर आपका जो फोन घूमता है ना, the first thing you should do is obviously you should be changing your passwords right away. Because if you don't do it, a very good hacker who's good can obviously get your passwords right away. Obviously, मेरा तो जब भी ऐसा हुआ है, this is the first thing what I do. Okay. और आपका जीमेल का पासवर्ड, आपके गूगल का पासवर्ड किसी पर चला गया तो आपके तो सारी चीजें चलेगी ना. अब तो एवरीथिंग इज सेंट्रलाइज्ड. अभी सेंट्रलाइज होना भी बड़ा काम खराब है, frankly speaking. Google is doing a very good thing, but it is putting us at a lot of risk as well. So your computer system, okay, so individual users not taking appropriate care, internal management, okay, natural disasters, okay, unauthorized intrusion into the system by an individual, malicious softwares entering the system. अच्छा, अब इसके लिए बेसिकली there's a rule जो मेंशन नहीं है, जो हम यूजुअली डिस्कस करते हैं. We always say कि जो रिस्क है ना, the risk that you have, okay, risk is always equal to your probability into क्या कहते हैं उस वर्ड को, the probability of it occurring into multiplied by the what you call that action या effect कह लो, जो भी कह लो. Now, what do I mean by that? I could not, word नहीं आ रहा. Effect is not exactly the same word. मतलब मेरा ये है कि risk क्या